I think by now we all know that Hollywood is certainly a silly place. That's like the no dust statement of the year. And nothing personifies this silly nonsense more than the Oscars, which has become a cesspool of bad ideas.
We live in a time where we have fictitious election result that elects a fictitious president. We live in a time where we have a man sending us to war for fictitious reasons.
That all sounds awfully familiar. The funny thing about history is it doesn't repeat itself, it just rhymes. The Oscars used to be about the personification of the craft. Who made the better movie? Who used the best techniques? Who had the best actors and delivered the best performances? Now it's just about virtue signaling.
I have to be honest, if things had gone differently this past week in Minneapolis, I might have traded in my heels for marching boots. I know that a lot of you people at home want to reach for your remote.
And a lot of this started because of hashtag #OscarsSoWhite. It's because of this hashtag that has led to the changes that we now have when it comes to what is Oscar worthy or not. And as of the 96th Oscars, which is the 2024 Oscars, these rules now apply to all films being nominated. And it's nothing more than just a diversity checklist. Which now brings us to Mads Mikkelsen. Now, the incident in question takes place at the Venice Film Festival when a journalist asked rather pointed questions of Mads Mikkelsen and the director of the film, The Promised Land, which is an all-Danish production.
Hello, I'm from Denmark, and it's a pleasure to be here. So you're a little bit into it. This is a cast and a Danish production, which is entirely Nordic. It therefore has some lack of diversity.
Now, The Promised Land is a film that takes place in Denmark in 1755, which is a time period not exactly known for its multiculturalism. And last I checked, Denmark is a predominantly white country that is made up of Danes.
You would say, as also new rules are implied in Hollywood.
What are you on to?
And right off the bat, Mads Mikkelsen is, what does this have to do with f***all? What does the Venice Film Festival have to do with Hollywood? The answer is absolutely nothing. My speculation is that this is nothing more than just some form of gotcha question.
Sorry, but
From the get-go.
From the get-go, there is set some rules of diversity across the Atlantic for competing in the best picture, the equivalent to this competition.
But this is not Hollywood or the Oscars. What does this have to do with anything other than the most obvious? Why is your film not diverse?
As I see it, you don't live up to these standards with this
Why is this an issue?
broadcast, and there is just curious. It's not because of artistic reasons, it's because of lack of diversity that this can't compete in that competition. Are you worried about that?
Are you?
And this really kind of highlights the issues with award ceremonies. You make films to entertain people, not to win awards. At least that's how it used to be. These days, entertainment is no longer being made to entertain the audience. It's virtue signal.
I might have traded in my heels for marching boots.
And to try and win awards that are basically pointless. It's the question that always comes up. Who is this made for? Not the audience. It's being made for the critics and for the peers of Hollywood because they want to virtue signal to one another. The audience is just an inconvenient speed bump in the way, along with making money, rather than entertain people. And it's why things like the Oscars have completely lost their relevancy.
We live in a time where we have fictitious election results that elects a fictitious president.
And for this journalist, it's a not so subtle way of saying, why isn't your film diverse enough? Does this concern you? And if it doesn't, it probably should.
I'm serious and honest because you're putting us on the spot, so yeah, you answer the question.
No, because I have, in comparison, Parasite was a great
What do you think?
I was thinking that Parasite was a great movie coming from South Korea.
Now, I haven't seen Parasite, but I have heard it is a very good movie. Now, Parasite is a film that is from South Korea, and it contains a bunch of people who are South Korean. Makes sense, right? But the issue that they're implying is that because it doesn't have white people in it, it is a diverse film, and that's simply not the case. The issue here is that diversity has become code for not having white people in it or having less white people in it. I don't have an issue with a movie being unapologetically black, or in this case, Korean. There's no problem with it, but you can't sell me on the fact that it's diverse, because it's not. Much like the same way I don't have an issue with a movie is unapologetically white, but you can't tell me it's diverse because it's not, because it's homogenous. And it's the same thing with Parasite and many other films. And all this really personifies the diversity trap. You are not being inclusive if you're being exclusive. That's not how this works. It's ultimately just a lie.
Had the same level of diversity, but coming from South Korea, this was actually still eligible for the competition.
And again, homogeny is not diversity, unless diversity just means it's anti-white.
You as a Danish movie with an all Nordic cast is not. And that's what I think is a little bit conundrum here.
No, it's not a conundrum, no more than it was with a South Korean movie having predominantly South Koreans. This is a Danish movie that has a predominantly Danish cast, and there's nothing wrong with that. The diversity trap is that they just want to make it about skin color, but it's much broader than that. Diversity also includes, yes, skin color, but also background and ideology and belief systems and perspectives. Those are the things that often get left out when it comes to diversity. The idea that you have 3 white guys in a room and that they're just all the same because they're white is ridiculous. And you can say the same thing about Parasite too, is that it is diverse when it comes to perspective and background and ideology. But that's not what they're calling diversity. It's the fact that it's a non-white cast is why it's diverse.
I don't understand the question.
Okay.
Well, first of all, the film takes place in Denmark in the 1750s.
Yeah.
We do have a big plot line, you know, about a girl of color who is...
However, this is where the director starts to backpedal a bit. He starts pushing that they have a narrative about a girl of color who experiences racism in Denmark, which I imagine is only a small part of the story, which would be my assumption, a story about Denmark in the 1750s. And to be quite frank, this movie probably doesn't need to have that. And on top of that, he probably would have been fine if he just said, yeah, don't care, much like what we had with Mads Mikkelsen. But you can see that the cult of diversity is the end-all be-all goal of Hollywood and entertainment, which is not what it's supposed to be. It's about entertaining people. That should be the ultimate goal, but it's not.
Being subjected to racism.
Okay.
And, you know, and which was very rare, any people of color in Denmark in
Yes.
almost nobody. She was probably at the time the only one in the entire country of Denmark.
And this just seems like a complete bitch move by the director, because this line of questioning has absolutely nothing to do with the movie.
So it was. I would say that it hasn't been. It wasn't a thought in our mind that I think it would be a little weird. You know, if it's just a historical
Exactly.
how it was in the 1750s.
That's also what I was portraying for.
Yeah.
Because God forbid that a movie made about Denmark in the 1750s doesn't cater to the sensibilities of Hollywood in current year. Anyway, that's my take. What's yours? Make sure to leave a thumbs up on your way out, and I'll catch you next time, folks.